Human caught alien girl stealing his meal, but her story broke his heart. The space station called Dock 9 never slept. Lights stayed on at all hours. Ships arrived and left without rest. Voices from 100 species mixed into one constant noise. Metal floors vibrated with engines. The air smelled like fuel, oil, and cooked food from nearby stalls. Ethan Cole walked through the crowd with tired steps. He was human. That alone made him stand out. Humans were not rare anymore, but they were still noticed. Taller than most species, broader shoulders, faster walking pace. He wore a worn jacket with the symbol of a small cargo company stitched on the arm. Nothing fancy, just enough to survive. Ethan had been hauling freight for 6 months straight. No breaks, no vacations, just job after job across neutral stations like Dock 9. All he wanted right now was food. He stopped near a wall and pulled a sealed ration pack from his bag. It was human-made, nutrient-dense, expensive, and meant to last a full day. He sat down, leaned back against the cold metal and sighed. Before opening it, he closed his eyes for just a second. That was his mistake. When he opened them again, the ration pack was gone. Ethan blinked. He looked down at his hands, empty. "That's weird," he muttered. He checked his bag, still zipped, still full of tools, no food. His eyes lifted slowly. About 10 meters away, something small moved fast through the crowd. Too fast. Ethan stood up. Years of hauling cargo in dangerous places had trained his instincts well. He pushed through the crowd, eyes locked forward. The small figure ducked behind a row of crates near a maintenance hallway. Ethan followed. The noise of the station faded as he stepped into the narrow corridor. Pipes ran along the ceiling. Warning lights blinked red and yellow. The air was cooler here. "Hey," Ethan said, his voice calm but firm. "You took something that belongs to me." No answer. He walked forward slowly. His boots echoed against the metal floor. Then he saw her. She stood at the far end of the corridor, pressed against the wall. She was small, much smaller than a human child. Her skin was pale blue, dull instead of bright. Her clothes were torn and too thin for the cold metal station. In her hands she clutched the ration pack. Her eyes were large, dark, and full of fear. She didn't run. She didn't attack. She just stared at him, frozen. Ethan stopped. He had expected many things: a thief, a gang runner, maybe a desperate adult alien. Not this. She looked young, too young. "Hey," Ethan said again, softer this time. "I'm not going to hurt you." The girl flinched anyway. She held the ration pack tighter, like it might disappear if she loosened her grip. Ethan slowly raised his hands to show they were empty. "You're hungry," he said. It wasn't a question. The girl swallowed. Her throat moved with effort. "Yes," she whispered. Her voice was weak, thin. Ethan frowned. He took a careful step forward. "That food is mine," he said. "But stealing on this station is dangerous. Security doesn't play nice." At the word security, her eyes widened in terror. She shook her head fast. "Please," she said, "please don't call them." "I wasn't planning to," Ethan replied. He looked around the corridor. No one else was there, but security drones patrolled nearby areas. It wouldn't take much for them to notice. Suddenly, a sharp alarm echoed faintly through the walls. The girl gasped. "They'll take me," she said, panic rising in her voice. "They always take us." "Who is us?" Ethan asked. Before she could answer, heavy footsteps echoed from the other end of the hallway. Security patrol. Ethan cursed quietly. He made a decision without fully thinking it through. "Come here," he said. The girl hesitated. "Now," he added, still calm but urgent. She ran to him. Ethan grabbed her small wrist, not rough, just enough to guide, and pulled her behind a stack of supply crates. He pressed a finger to his lips. They waited. 2 security officers passed by, tall, armored. Their helmets hid their faces. "One human reported a theft," one said. "Probably station vermin," the other replied. "Not worth the effort." Their footsteps faded. The girl let out a shaky breath. Ethan leaned back against the crate, heart pounding. "That was close," he said. She nodded, still shaking. He looked at her properly now. She was thinner than he first thought. Her arms looked fragile. Her cheeks were sunken. Her eyes were too big for her face, not because of her species, but because there wasn't enough flesh to fill her skin. "How long since you ate?" he asked. She hesitated, then whispered, 2 days. Ethan felt something twist in his chest. "That ration could last you longer than that," he said quietly. "Yes," she replied. "That's why I took it," he sighed. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lyra," she said. "I'm Ethan." She nodded like the name mattered more than it should. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, Ethan said, "Why steal from a human? You could have taken something else." Lyra looked down. "Humans carry real food," she said. "Not waste." Ethan frowned. "Waste." She hesitated again, then spoke, her voice low. "My people clean the lower decks," she said. "We take what others leave behind, sometimes what they throw away." Ethan felt sick. "You work here?" he asked. "Yes," she said, "but we are not paid. We are allowed." That word hit harder than any insult. Allowed. "Allowed to live," she continued. "Not allowed to complain." Ethan clenched his jaw. "That's wrong," he said. Lyra looked at him in confusion. "The law says it's fine," she replied, "so it must be right." Ethan shook his head. "Human laws used to say a lot of stupid things too," he said. She didn't understand, but she listened. Another alarm echoed, closer this time. "They're tightening patrols," Ethan said. "You can't stay here." She looked at the ration pack again. "I can give it back," she said quickly. "I don't want trouble." Ethan thought for a moment. Then he took the ration pack from her hands. She flinched. He opened it. The smell of warm, seasoned protein filled the corridor. He split the contents in half. "Sit," he said. She stared at him. "Eat," he repeated, her eyes filled with tears. "But it's yours," she said. "So is my choice," Ethan replied. She slowly sat down. Her hands shook as she ate. She chewed carefully, like she was afraid the food would vanish. Ethan watched silently. He noticed how fast she ate, even while trying to be polite. Hunger like that didn't wait. When she finished, she looked better, not healthy, but less empty. "Thank you," she whispered. Ethan nodded, but his mind was racing. One hungry girl didn't happen by accident. It was a system, and humans were part of it. Somewhere above Dock 9, ships loaded with wealth passed by. Somewhere below, children like Lyra stole meals to survive. Ethan stood up. "Lyra," he said, "where do you sleep?" She hesitated. "Near the vents," she admitted. Ethan closed his eyes for a moment. Then he opened them, resolved. "Come with me," he said. Her eyes widened. "Where?" "My ship," he replied. She froze. "That's not allowed," she said. Ethan gave a small, tired smile. "Then I guess today," he said, "we're breaking a few rules." And somewhere deep in Dock 9, something small but powerful began to change. Ethan's ship was not impressive. It was small, old, and covered in scratches from years of hard travel. The engines made a low, humming sound even when idle, like they were always tired. But to Lyra, standing at the entrance ramp, it looked like something from a dream. She stopped just outside the ship. "You're sure?" she asked quietly. Ethan nodded. "I don't invite people unless I mean it." She looked back down the hallway where shadows hid the lower decks. Then she looked up at the ship again. Slowly she stepped inside. The ramp closed behind them with a soft hiss. Lyra flinched at the sound. "It locks?" she asked. "For safety," Ethan said. "Not to trap you." She relaxed a little. Inside, the ship was clean but simple. A small cockpit, a narrow sleeping area, storage crates tied down with straps. The air smelled faintly of metal and oil, but also something warm. Food. Lyra noticed it immediately. Her eyes followed a sealed food container on a shelf. Ethan saw her looking. "You hungry again?" he asked. She shook her head quickly. "No, I ate." Ethan didn't argue. He had learned that hunger didn't follow rules. "Sit," he said, pointing to a fold-down seat. She sat carefully, hands in her lap, posture stiff like she expected to be told to leave at any moment. Ethan activated a privacy field. It was weak, but enough to block basic scans. "Just in case," he muttered. "What case?" Lyra asked. "Someone asking questions they shouldn't." Her shoulders tightened. "They'll come for me," she said. "They always do." Ethan leaned against a crate. "Who?" he asked. "The overseers," she replied. "Station officials, contract holders, anyone with a badge." Ethan frowned. "Because you stole," she shook her head. "Because I exist." That answer stayed in the air longer than it should have. Ethan sat down across from her. "Tell me about your people," he said. Lyra hesitated. "We're called the Viral," she said slowly. "We used to live on our own world. It wasn't rich, but it was ours." "What happened?" Ethan asked. She looked down at her hands. "Trade happened," she said. Ethan already didn't like where this was going. "They came with agreements," she continued. "Said they would help us grow food faster, build stations, protect us." "And?" Ethan prompted. "They took control of our land," she said. "Then our skies, then our laws." Ethan clenched his jaw. "They said we weren't advanced enough to manage resources," she said, "so they managed them for us." "And you?" he asked. Lyra shrugged slightly. "We became labor." The word sounded small, but it carried weight. "We clean stations," she continued, "sort waste, maintain places others don't want to go. In return, we are allowed to live on trade routes." "Without pay?" Ethan asked. "Yes," she said. "Food scraps are part of the agreement." Ethan stood up abruptly and paced the narrow space. "That's slavery," he said. Lyra flinched at his tone. "That word is forbidden," she said quickly. "They say it's offensive." Ethan laughed once. It was short and bitter. "Funny how that works," he muttered. He stopped pacing and looked at her. "How many of you are here?" he asked. "On Dock 9, she replied. "Thousands." Ethan felt his stomach drop. "Kids?" he asked. She nodded. "We start working young," she said. "Smaller bodies fit better in vents." Ethan looked away. For a moment neither of them spoke. Then the ship shook slightly as another vessel docked nearby. Lyra stiffened again. "They'll scan," she whispered. Ethan checked the console. "Not deep enough to see you, not yet." She wrapped her arms around herself. "I shouldn't be here," she said. "You'll get in trouble." "Probably," Ethan replied. She looked up at him. "Why are you doing this?" He thought about that. "I don't know," he admitted. "At first I was just angry someone stole my food." She nodded slowly. "But then," he continued, "I saw you and I realized something." "What?" she asked. "I realized I've walked past people like you before," he said, "and I didn't stop." Her eyes searched his face. "You stopped today," she said. "Yeah," Ethan replied quietly. "I did." A warning light blinked on the console. "Patrol approaching," the ship announced. Lyra stood up fast. "I have to go." Ethan raised a hand. "Wait." "They'll find me," she said, panic rising. "They always do." "Not if you don't go back," Ethan said. She stared at him. "Where would I go?" He hesitated. "That's the problem," he admitted. Silence fell between them again. Finally, Lyra spoke. "If I don't report back, they'll punish my group." Ethan froze. "They punish everyone?" he asked. "Yes," she said, "collectively." Ethan swore under his breath. "That's how they keep control," he said. She nodded. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. Helping one person wasn't enough. Helping her might hurt others. The ship shook again as the patrol docked closer. "They're here," Lyra whispered. Ethan made a choice. He opened a compartment and pulled out a small data pad. "What's that?" she asked. "A recorder," he said. "Military grade, old but reliable." He handed it to her. "I want you to tell your story," he said. She blinked. "Why?" "Because humans believe what they can hear and see," he replied. "And because silence is how systems like this survive." Her hands trembled as she took the device. "They won't care," she said. "Some won't," Ethan agreed, "but enough will." Footsteps echoed outside the ship. A voice called out, "Cargo vessel E417, random inspection." Ethan tapped the console and opened the channel. "Copy," he said calmly. Lyra looked at him in fear. "What if they find it?" she asked, holding up the recorder. "Hide it," Ethan said. "And remember, you didn't steal food, you survived." She nodded, eyes shining with tears she refused to let fall. The hatch opened. 2 officers stepped inside. Their eyes scanned the ship. "Everything in order?" one asked. Ethan forced a smile. "Always." Lyra stood behind a crate, silent, invisible to their notice. But something had already changed. A story had been heard, and stories, Ethan knew, were dangerous things, especially when humans finally listened. The inspection lasted longer than Ethan expected. The two officers moved slowly through the ship, scanning cargo crates, checking panels, and asking routine questions. Their boots echoed against the metal floor, each step making Lyra's heart beat faster. She stayed perfectly still. She had learned that skill young. Ethan answered calmly, his voice steady even as his mind raced. One wrong move, one wrong scan, and everything would collapse. The recorder rested inside a narrow gap behind a power conduit, wrapped in cloth. Lyra had hidden it there with shaking hands. Every second she feared it would fall out or make a sound. Finally, one officer nodded. "All clear," he said. "You're free to go." The hatch closed. The footsteps faded. Only then did Lyra breathe again. Her knees gave out and she sat on the floor, hugging herself. Ethan leaned against the wall, exhaling slowly. "That was too close," he muttered. Lyra looked up at him. "They didn't see me." "No," he said, "but they will keep looking." She nodded. For the next few hours, the ship remained quiet. Ethan powered down unnecessary systems and stayed docked, waiting for patrol traffic to thin. Lyra sat near the small viewport, watching ships pass by. "I've never seen space like this," she said softly. Ethan glanced at her. "What do you mean?" "Usually I only see hulls from the outside," she replied, "through vents or reflection glass." Ethan felt that familiar heaviness in his chest again. "Lyra," he said, "you can't go back." She didn't answer right away. "My people are still there," she said at last. "If I leave, nothing changes." "If you stay, nothing changes either," Ethan replied. She looked down. "At least they're not punished." Ethan crossed the room and sat across from her. "You already recorded the truth," he said. "That matters." She shook her head slightly. "Words don't feed people." "No," Ethan agreed, "but they start fires." She looked confused. "Human history," he explained. "Most of our biggest changes didn't start with weapons. They started with stories that made people angry enough to act." Lyra thought about that. "Will they believe me?" she asked. "They'll believe something," Ethan said, "and that's enough." Later, when station traffic quieted, Ethan prepared the ship for departure. "You're leaving Dock 9, Lyra asked. "Not yet," he said. "I need to send the data first." "Send it where?" Ethan hesitated. "Home, human space." He uploaded the recording through a secure channel, breaking it into fragments and sending it across multiple relays. Old tricks he had learned during riskier jobs. When it was done, he leaned back in the pilot's chair. "That's it," he said quietly. Lyra stared at the console. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now," Ethan replied, "we wait." They didn't have to wait long. Within hours, whispers started spreading through Dock 9. First, it was rumors among workers. Then hushed conversations near cargo bays. Then angry voices in lower decks. Someone had leaked something. Someone had shown proof. Station alerts began flashing messages about unauthorized information and labor disruptions. Security patrols doubled. Ethan watched it all from the ship's sensors. "They know," he said. Lyra's hands trembled. "They'll crack down." "And expose themselves," Ethan replied. The next message came from an unknown human channel. "We received the data. Is it real?" Ethan typed back, every word. Minutes later, another message arrived. "We're mobilizing legal teams and relief groups. Stay safe." Ethan let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Lyra looked at him. "What does that mean?" "It means," Ethan said slowly, "you were heard." Dock 9 did not take it well. Overseers declared emergency regulations. Work shifts were extended. Food rations were reduced to maintain order. Lyra watched the feeds in horror. "They're punishing them," she whispered. Ethan slammed his fist against the console. "That won't last," he said. "Not if humans get involved." "How long?" she asked. Ethan didn't answer right away. Human response was fast, but space was big. Meanwhile, security began searching ships more aggressively. "We can't stay docked," Ethan said. "They'll find you eventually." "Then where do we go?" Lyra asked. "There's a maintenance corridor that leads to an old cargo ring," he said. "No official records. I can dock there." "Is it safe?" "Safer than here." They moved quickly. As the ship detached from Dock 9, alarms flared across the station. Not for them, but for something else. A riot had broken out in the lower decks. Viral workers had stopped working. They were standing together, unarmed, silent. Security forces surrounded them, shouting orders. Lyra watched the feed, tears streaming down her face. "They're scared," she said. "We were never supposed to stand up." Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. "You already did," he said. "The rest are just catching up." The ship docked in the abandoned ring. Power was low. The area was dark and cold. They waited. Hours passed. Then days. Supplies ran thin. Lyra helped where she could, cleaning, organizing, learning how the ship worked. She learned fast, too fast, like someone used to adapting or failing. One day another message came through. Human aid vessels en route. Trade Council challenged. Evidence confirmed. Lyra read it twice. "They're coming," she whispered. "Yes," Ethan said, "and the galaxy won't be able to pretend anymore." Dock 9 erupted into chaos. News drones broadcast images of starving workers, denied rights, denied names. Humans across multiple systems reacted the same way. Anger, not quiet anger, the kind that moved fleets. When the first human ships arrived, they didn't fire weapons. They brought food, medical supplies, lawyers, observers, everything Dock 9 had avoided. Station officials tried to block them. They failed. Lyra stood beside Ethan at the viewport watching the ships arrive. "I never thought anyone would come," she said. Ethan smiled, tired but proud. "That's the thing about humans," he said. "Once we see something wrong, we can't unsee it." She looked at him. "You changed everything." He shook his head. "You did." And as Dock 9 faced the truth it had buried for years, the galaxy learned a lesson it would never forget. Human kindness was not quiet, it was patient. And once awakened, it was unstoppable. Dock 9 had never been so quiet. The silence was strange, heavy. It pressed against the metal walls and filled every corridor. Workers stood still. Security officers waited without orders. Overseers argued behind closed doors. And above it all, human ships hovered like patient giants. They did not attack. They did not threaten. They simply stayed. Ethan stood beside Lyra at the viewport of his ship, watching shuttle after shuttle move toward the station. Each carried food, medical teams, and observers wearing the blue-white symbol of human relief groups. "They're really here," Lyra whispered. "Yes," Ethan said. "And they're not leaving." Dock 9's command council issued warnings, then demands, then legal threats. Humans answered with paperwork. Thousands of pages, old treaties, forgotten clauses, agreements rewritten long ago and quietly ignored. Humans were very good at finding rules others hoped no one remembered, and they were even better at asking one simple question. Why? Why were the viral unpaid? Why were children working? Why were food scraps considered compensation? No one had good answers. Security forces attempted one last show of control. They ordered the viral workers back to their duties. The viral did not move. They stood together in the open cargo bays, thin, tired, afraid, but together. Lyra watched the live feed, her hands clenched. "They're going to hurt them," she said. Ethan shook his head. "Not today." Human observers had positioned themselves everywhere, recorders active, feeds live across human networks. Every movement was watched. Security hesitated. They had power before because no one was looking. Now the galaxy was watching. Slowly, the overseers backed down. Food distribution began within hours. Not scraps, real meals. Medical scans followed. Doctors frowned. Data was recorded. Evidence stacked higher and higher. Lyra sat quietly as she watched viral children eat until they laughed. She had forgotten that sound. Later, Ethan escorted her onto the station. For the first time, she walked through Dock 9 openly. No hiding, No running. People stared, some with guilt, some with anger, some with shame. Humans nodded to her as they passed. One knelt to speak to a viral child at eye level. Another removed a jacket and wrapped it around an elder's shoulders. The galaxy was learning something new. Humans did not see labor classifications. They saw people. A formal hearing was announced 3 days later. The Trade Council representatives arrived with confidence and practiced smiles. They spoke of necessity and economic balance. Then Lyra was asked to speak. She stood in the center of the chamber, small compared to the room but steady. Ethan stood nearby, silent support. Lyra took a breath. She spoke simply. She spoke about hunger, about vents, about being afraid of boots in hallways, about being told that pain was normal, that it was legal, that it was invisible. No anger filled her voice, just truth. When she finished, the chamber was silent. A human representative stood. "This is unacceptable," she said, "and it ends now." The ruling was swift. Dock 9 was placed under human-monitored administration. The labor contracts were declared void. Compensation was ordered. Relocation and aid programs began immediately. For the first time in their history, the viral were recognized as full sentient citizens under interstellar law. Outside the chamber, cheers echoed through the station. Lyra felt dizzy. "It's over," she whispered. Ethan smiled gently. "It's just beginning." Weeks passed. Dock 9 changed. New systems replaced old ones. Schools opened in areas once sealed. Payment terminals replaced ration bins. Viral workers received identification, not as labor units but as individuals. Lyra was offered many things: shelter, education, transport to human space. She surprised everyone by refusing most of it. "I want to stay," she said. "Here?" Ethan asked. "Yes," she replied. "This is where my people are. This is where things must be rebuilt." Ethan nodded. He understood. On the day Ethan prepared to leave, Lyra met him at the docking bay. His ship was repaired, restocked, and freshly marked with a small symbol of human relief service. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. "You already did," Ethan replied. "You trusted me," she smiled. "You humans are strange," she said. Ethan chuckled. "We get that a lot." She hesitated, then asked, "Will you come back?" Ethan thought about the stars waiting for him. "Yeah," he said. "I think I will." As the ship lifted off, Lyra watched it disappear into the endless dark. She didn't feel alone. Across human space, the story spread, not as a legend, not as propaganda, but as a reminder. Humanity was not the strongest species, not the oldest, not the most advanced. But when humans noticed suffering, they did not look away. They did not accept normal. They asked questions. They told stories. And once they cared, the galaxy had to change. Far from Dock 9, Ethan's ship jumped to light speed. He leaned back in his seat, tired but satisfied. One meal, that's all it had taken. One stolen meal. And a human who decided to stop walking.